Hello, my name is Axel Hoagland. I'm a financial advisor with Highland Wealth Management. Today, I'm not providing any financial advice. If you want financial advice, you can contact me through my website, and I will be happy to provide you with financial advising services. But today, I just wanted to provide some information about the impact of a 2% Bitcoin allocation to your portfolio. So, if you could invest 2% of your portfolio and potentially walk away with twice the wealth, would you take that bet? So what I'm showing here is a scenario where somebody is starting out with $500,000 in their portfolio. And if this isn't you, next I'll walk through a $100,000 portfolio scenario, and the math kind of ends up the same. Just the magnitude is different. So there's three potential scenarios here, right? So one is the blue line, where the person has $500,000. They leave it invested in the S&P 500 for 30 years, gaining a 7% return. And after 30 years, you see that they have $3.8 million. So that's pretty good. So the other two scenarios are revolving around a Bitcoin allocation of 2%. So 2% of $500,000 is $10,000. So in the red scenario, the $10,000 invested in Bitcoin goes to zero. And so over these 30 years, the person would end up with $3,730,000. So only about a $70,000 difference between those two scenarios, where they risked the $10,000 in Bitcoin. So, they've lost that 70,000, but that's the risk in investing in anything. But the scenario that I want you to focus on here is the with Bitcoin scenario. And so what's happening in the with Bitcoin scenario is this shows the impact of the 3.8. So this fully includes the $490,000 invested at 7% over all these years, plus the impact of $10,000 of Bitcoin invested for 20 years, returning 29%. And then after 20 years, it is invested in the S&P 500 again, and it just returns the 7%. And I'll explain the reasoning why I changed the return from 29% to 7% for the last 10 years. But that just revolves around Bitcoin becoming fully adopted. And so in the second scenario, where initially they invested in $10,000 in Bitcoin, which is 2% of their portfolio, you can see that they end up with almost $7 million. And so, that's not quite double, but it's pretty significant. So that's one scenario. The same kind of math applies to somebody if you have a $100,000 portfolio, and this might be a lot more relatable for some people. So you have a $100,000 portfolio, again, invested. The blue line is invested for 30 years at a 7% return, gives you $761,000. So 2% again would be $2,000. So you have $98,000, and your $2,000 that was invested in Bitcoin went to zero. And you see that you end up with $746,000 after the 30 years. So very close. But if you look at the scenario with the 2% Bitcoin included, so again, it's the red line plus $2,000 invested for 20 years at 29%. And then the rest of it is invested for the last 10 years at 7% again. And you end up with 1.4 million almost. So again, about twice as much. So, I think what I'm trying to display here, right, is that there's a very high reward and a fairly low, risk for investing just 2% of your portfolio in Bitcoin. So now the question is, why do I think Bitcoin is going to grow at this 29% for 20 years? So I think that the fully realized price of Bitcoin today should be about $13 million. And so where that comes from is, if you look at all the assets in the world, is about $742 trillion. But there's a concept called monetary premium, which is just money that people use for store of value. So bonds and broad money, which is just like cash or money market funds, those are definitely things that are considered like pure monetary premium, where people just have them to store value. But things like stocks, equities, or real estate, there's a lot of monetary premium value built into those things. So I think that each of these markets has some percent of monetary premium that could essentially flow to Bitcoin. So of this $742 trillion, at least 275 trillion of it could move into Bitcoin. And so if you take the 21 million Bitcoin divided by, I have it divided by 273 million trillion, just to get to a fully realized Bitcoin price of $13 million today. And so what I have built in as an assumption is that the fully realized Bitcoin price of 13 million, this grows at 3% a year for 20 years. And as Bitcoin is growing in price at 29% a year, that is when it gets to kind of the fully, Bitcoin actually absorbs all the monetary premium that it can, and then the Bitcoin price just grows at 3%. So then at this point in time, you would transition your portfolio to where you would have it all invested back in the S&P 500, growing at 7% a year. So, like I said, all I wanted to explain in this video was, the potential of investing investing 2% of your portfolio in Bitcoin, and kind of the outsized return, and what I think is relatively downside risk. So everybody obviously has to understand that risk for themselves. You should do some more studying. I have some more videos and information on my website that you can learn about. You can contact me to learn about Bitcoin. But my point is, I think it's just worth considering. Thank you for your time.